Hi, I'm Mason Duchatschek, and I want to share a couple stories with you today that I think and hope will make you a more conscientious and effective manager and leader. There was a gentleman that I guess were friends of my parents, and every Thanksgiving we got together with this particular family, and he was a basically kind of a media mogul and owned and ran a media company of newspapers in small towns all across America. And I always looked like he was super smart and super sharp, and he was the CEO of this media company. And I looked forward to Thanksgiving because number one, my brother and I enjoyed their kids who are our ages, and our parents enjoyed each other's company, and it was just always nice. Even if we didn't see each other for the whole year, Thanksgiving we always got to get together. And he has since passed away, but I learned a lot from him, and I always looked forward to Thanksgiving because I would listen to his stories and how he handled things, and I'm going to share a couple of them with you today. It sounds obvious, and you would think that we all remember this, and it's top of the mind awareness. It's that business exists to make a profit. I know it sounds common sense, and we think, oh, we know that, but sometimes we forget, and it affects our decision making. And I'm going to tell you a couple stories he shared with me that would matter. Number one, when he went into newspapers, his first objective when he was looking at buying one, he'd go into a small town newspaper and he would look at them and he'd start looking for things that where could he cut costs. And then he figured whatever their revenue was, if he could find a way to cut costs, there's profit there. So he was looking for opportunities to cut costs without sacrificing the basic functions of what the newspaper could do in the community. And then he looked at ways to increase sales. But first step was, is there waste in this company? Is there opportunities where they could make better decisions? And he went into, and he looked very carefully at the leadership that was in place at those companies. Usually the publisher is the person that runs the small town newspaper. It's like a general manager if you're not in that industry. But anyhow, what he did was he went into this one particular newspaper in a small market that didn't have a local small town newspaper competing with it for, I'm going to guess, 125 miles maybe. I mean, it was just kind of out in the middle of nowhere and didn't really have any competitors. I mean, it was the only game in town. And the newspaper owners that were trying to sell it to him was like, hey, we're the only game in town. We don't really have any competitors. Our nearest newspaper's 125 miles away or whatever. And then the people trying to sell the newspaper to him came forward and said, and he asked to see what the newspaper looked like, and it was beautiful, color print, it was gorgeous, and the people who were publishing the newspaper at that point in time were really proud of their publication. They said, look, this is beautiful, state of the art. Look at the color print and how beautiful this is. Blah 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 blah. And the executive asked one question. He said, why would you go with color print? Does that allow you to charge more for your advertising? I mean, does it deliver more value? I mean, if you're the only game in town, why aren't you just using the plain black ink systems that you had before? I mean, that was an investment that the executives at that newspaper decided to make that, yes, it served their vanity needs. They were real proud of the way it looked, but it didn't contribute to the bottom line. In fact, it was much more expensive and it didn't generate more profit. Companies in the local market, if they only have one choice, are going to buy advertising in the newspaper, whether it's black ink or color. And this was just the tip of the iceberg. He went on to ask lots of other questions, but the point was, when he saw that the leadership in this company made decisions off of vanity and not profit, and this was just one example, he found others, he knew that that was a newspaper he wanted to buy and he could turn around and make profit off of. Another one of his, and I said he ran a whole bunch of them, I'm going to say 29 or 30 of them, newspapers that I was aware of. And he talked about another newspaper publisher that worked for him in another small market. And the publisher came to him and said, hey, I want to request an investment of X number of dollars for a new type of printing press technology or something like that. And he asked the publisher why. And the publisher told him, he said, well, we can do, this X percentage faster, and it'll save us manpower of 2 or 3 full-time employees or whatever it would be. And so he asked the publisher, so what you're telling me is you want us to invest money in new printing technology when what we have is working fine right now, because we will be able to get things done more efficiently and with less manpower. And he said, yes. And he said, okay, then who are you going to fire? And the publisher was like, I wasn't planning on firing anybody. We just find other things for him to do. And at that point in time, the publisher experienced a teachable moment. And he said, look, our job is to make a profit. And we're not here to make people's jobs easier. If what we're doing right now is we can profitably deliver newspapers and we can keep people employed, that's fine. But don't come to me asking me to make additional investments in technology and equipment if we're not going to get savings that it's capable of doing and reducing labor costs. So the publisher went ahead and decided he didn't want the printer, he'd rather keep the people, which, great decision. But the point is people get fired for stuff like that. People who run companies look at them, supervisor or manager, and if they're coming to them saying, hey, I want to make a bad decision here for this business, probably don't want that to be you. So I'm just saying that, be conscientious about things like that. So anyway, all of those 2 stories I just want to share because I think they really drive home the importance of remembering, whether it's your business or whether you're in charge of running someone else's business and have a lot of responsibility, always remember that the job of the business is to earn a profit. And whether it's affecting your wallet because you own it, or whether it's affecting your credibility because you go and propose something to the boss that costs some money and doesn't generate more profit, then I just want you to be considerate, conscientious, and thoughtful before you have those conversations and before you make those decisions. So hope those stories have been helpful.